pours 2 mugs of green tea and returns the silver teapot to its tray on the Airstream's wooden counter. Like the teapot, the high edges of the wooden tray are decorated in a shallow relief of fine, ornate patterns, likely to be missed by any new friends who might come to visit Sylvia in her kitchen. She hears a diesel truck come down the hill to the campground. A rust-mottled pickup grinds past. The harsh smell of fuel wafts into Sylvia's world, overwhelming the earthy scent of hot tea. "We have new neighbors, I think," she calls to George. Her words roll out in heavily accented English. It still feels odd to Sylvia speaking this new language with George after so many years in another shared tongue. They are both trying their best to assimilate, to take in this new country in every way possible so that it can be theirs too. George naps every afternoon while Sylvia knits shawls and baby clothes for her children and her grandchildren. Sylvia walks the length of the camper to the rear bedroom to bring George his tea. She sits on the edge of the bed. "You did hear the truck?" she asks, carefully laying out her grammar. "I said, I think we have neighbors." George rolls over to look at his wife. His right shoulder, exposed by the fall of the blankets, is thick with gray hair. Sylvia smiles inward. She has begun picking up second-hand paperbacks from the sale racks by the doors to the small-town grocery stores where they shop. She reads them in the evenings, keeping a dictionary on her lap. Last week, she learned the word hirsute, like a suit of hair. Not like George. George's hair is too unruly to be a suit, she thinks, too pig-headed, like him. She's learned this phrase recently, too, and pictures George lying in bed, an enormous pig's head on his shoulders, great tusks jutting upwards. The image is not entirely unbecoming and reminds her of festivals held when she was younger and very far away from this campground in northern British Columbia. "You see who they is?" he asks. "Who they are," she corrects him. "Are then." He takes the mug of tea from Sylvia. "Did you see them?" "No, just their truck. They have a camper on top, a 5th wheel. Old. Not clean and new. Old is okay," says George, sitting up with his tea. "We are old, too, and we are okay." "Speak for yourself," says Sylvia. "I am okay, but I am still young. Young like the earth is young." He laughs, then grows serious. He leans towards her with affection. "And so beautiful like the earth, too." She responds with a soft murmur in their native language. There is a burst of rock and roll music from outside, then the slam of a truck door, perhaps 3 or 4 campsites away around the bend in the lane. After dinner, George builds a fire in the fire pit. The days are shorter already, the evenings cooler. Sylvia brings out a shawl for herself and a blanket for George. She folds the coverings over the back of their lawn chairs. She goes back inside to get her dictionary and her book and the wind-up lantern. Returning down the little steps, she says, I do not know why you look with that thing." George is setting up his telescope as he does every evening at dusk. The tripod has by now stretched its feet into the soil or sand of hundreds of campgrounds. This time, he has set it up on the grass-sheathed knoll behind their site, and Sylvia must look up toward the forest in order to talk with him. "I look in, I do not recognize a thing," she says. "It is the best that money can buy," explains George again, adjusting the eyepiece. "It shows what is there. You cannot expect things to stay the same. Maybe things would not look so different if you did not drop it so much." George grumples in their former language. "English, George." "Bah," he answers. Together the two notice the sound of approaching footfalls on the gravel lane. With one last look towards George, Sylvia settles herself down in her chair. She drapes the shawl across her shoulders and rests the heavy dictionary on her legs. She opens her book. "You should read this book, George. The author, he is writing about different way world could have been, with castles still and zombies and wars. It is silly, you would like it." "Castles and war is different?" "Castles and war like in old times, but with zombies and dragons." "What are zombies?" "Hi," says a quiet voice. A young woman has come around the front of the trailer and is standing a few steps down the wide lane of George and Sylvia's campsite. She clears her throat. She looks like she's glued in place on the gravel, unable to move any closer. Her shorts are so tiny that at first Sylvia is not certain the girl is wearing anything other than her sandals and a dirty hooded sweater. "Hello," say George and Sylvia together after a pause. Looks like you were the only other campers here, so I thought I'd come by and say hello, says the girl. Sylvia can see that she is nervous. My name's Mabel, she continues, rocking forward on one foot and then quickly back again, as if remembering she has not yet been invited into George and Sylvia's outdoor living room. Sylvia appreciates the gesture of respect. I am Sylvia. She slides her bookmark back into place before closing the book, but keeps her thumb between the pages as well, in case the visitor does not stay long. The man dreaming of the stars is my husband, George. Very nice to meet you both, says Mabel. My husband, gosh, that seems so weird to say. We've only been married a couple of days. We stopped in Prince George last night and was here for a few days more to do before we do the coast. Rick, that's his name. He wants me to ask if yous would have any catsup. I guess I forgot to get some and he likes it on his KD. He's particular that way, I guess. Catsup? Asks Sylvia. Tomato catsup. The young woman is clearly from an English-speaking place, but Sylvia has not heard her style of speech before. Some folks say ketchup, says Mabel, realizing there may be a language barrier. Ah, yes, ketchup. But no, I do not think we... Wait, it comes in those little packets, yes? At the restaurants where food is fast? That's it, says Mabel, hope brightening her sallow, acneed face. To Sylvia, she looks unwashed. It is difficult to imagine this ragged child as a beaming bride only 2 days before. Sylvia notices the faded red sweatshirt is not as loose at the belly as it might be. I will go check, she says. You come in. In the tight space of the kitchen, the young woman's smell makes it clear she has not bathed since the wedding, and possibly not for some time before. Sylvia breathes through her mouth as best she can while looking in the little refrigerator for the packets she has collected, not wanting to waste food, but also not wanting to consume the plastic-wrapped red and yellow pastes. Where are you and your husband from? Asks Mabel. She moves out of Sylvia's way by pressing herself along the checkered bench by the dinette table. Sylvia joins her, taking a seat on the opposite bench. Sylvia is in no hurry to get the packets. She wishes to know more about the girl and how she came to such a situation in this modern world with its many preventions and rights. Oh, we are from very far. Our grandchildren, though, they have emigrated all over the world, some to this Canada. It is a beautiful land, this. I have several granddaughters here expecting babies. You are how far to go now? Mabel's eyes grow wide, you can tell. She asks. I am sorry, says Sylvia. I was indelicate. I am an old lady. I have seen much birth. Very much death, too, but very much birth. Beginnings are good. You are young, though, for a Canadian, for a modern girl. How old are you, if I can ask you this? I'm 17. Mabel looks unsure of the age she is given, and Sylvia wonders if perhaps the girl is even younger. That is very young, but good. You will have much energy for your little one. I guess, said Mabel, even more uncertainly. Her hands are folded in her lap like a schoolgirl's. Sylvia thinks the girl looks very worried. In the clearer light of the hanging lamp, Sylvia can see the shadow of a bruise beneath Mabel's left eye. Do you have a lot of kids? Asks Mabel. I guess you must have if you have a bunch of grandkids. I had many children once, says Sylvia, and now I have a great many grandchildren. Lately there come more and more new babies in our family. We are very fortunate, George and I. May I touch your stomach? I have a sense about these things. Mabel looks up, her eyes look frightened, but she nods and moves to the edge of the bench so the old woman can reach across to the small belly. Sylvia can feel that the girl must be nearly 4 months along. A boy, says Sylvia, very strong, very healthy. You can tell that just by feeling? My people have always had this gift, explains Sylvia. She slides her hand underneath the bottom elastic of the soft sweater and spreads her fingers wide across the girl's stomach. She fixes her eyes on Mabel's and says firmly but quietly, he will not be like his father. Do not worry.
From the sky of heaven.